count for it, but there is a major deviation in elevation. All right, so for those two runs, the Globalsat unit I measured at 5.33 miles, and the Forerunner I measured out at 5.41 miles. So that's a reasonable deviation, I would say, distance-wise over the course of 5 miles. I wish it was a little bit tighter, but that's what it worked out to be. Okay, so on Tuesday I took it out for a run on a track, and this is where I had some problems. Let me show you. There's a deviation of not quite a quarter of a mile, but pretty close to it, and that's a pretty big deviation. The Globalsat unit measured my running at 4.8 miles, and the Forerunner measured it at 5.01. Again, that's pretty significant. And I don't know if you can see the times, but the times are exactly the same. So I started both watches simultaneously, and I ran for 5 miles, and then booked back and didn't pause or anything. So that's a fairly significant deviation, I believe, over the course of 5 miles, and it troubled me. Now, again, I did not have the WAAS on, so I wasn't really sure what to make of it. So I went back out the next day, which was yesterday, and I did it again. Now, I should mention that normally when I do track workouts, I will run on the outer ring of a track, of a quarter-mile track. But because I was having these deviations, I decided for 2 miles of that run to run on the inside track and to measure every quarter mile exactly, to make sure, to basically see which of the two units, the Forerunner or the Globalsat, was the one that was actually accurate. Because the quarter-mile track is pre-measured from the inside, and I knew exactly, what a quarter mile should be. Well, it turned out the first run I did, the Garmin, pardon me, actually I did not import the Garmin stuff in this, I just junked it. The Garmin was off. That's the bottom line. Bottom line up front, the Garmin was the one that was off, and it was off fairly significantly. Now, at this one, during these runs, I had turned the WAAS on the Forerunner. But the deviation I saw with the Garmin, like I said, I did 2 miles on the inside of the track as a lap. And with the Globalsat, it measured out at a perfect 2.03. So I was very happy with that. I mean, it was spot on. You can't get much closer than that. So, again, I was very happy with the performance of it, whereas the Forerunner did have problems. Now, so yesterday, which was Wednesday, I definitely say that the Globalsat beat the Forerunner. I have no idea why. Okay, so today I went out and did the same thing again. Today I wore one on each wrist, and I went on a little bit different path. Hold on just a second. All right. So I'm going to analyze this too. I did 5 miles again, a different course, not a track course. And the top one here is the Globalsat unit, and it measured my running at 5.07 miles, and the other one, the Forerunner, measured at 5.02. So right there together. The Forerunner showed that I ran 2 seconds longer, and that's explained by the starting and stopping at the beginning and the end. I guess I wasn't fast enough with my button pushing. Now, despite all that, I have no idea why the Sportwatch software is calculating the calories differently. It's a pretty significant deviation in the calories, even though the pace is virtually identical and the distance is virtually identical. But for the Forerunner, it said I burned 656 calories, whereas with the Globalsat, only 512. So now, because I had both units on, and I had the heart rate monitor's on, this is probably going to be the most useful data if it's visible in the review. All right, so right here, this is an overlay of the distance as the x-axis, and the y-axis is the elevation. This time you can see it matched up pretty darn well. No deviation really to speak of, only very, very minor deviations. I'm going to turn that off, look at the heart rate. Now, although I didn't talk about it earlier, I'll talk about it here. I've noticed that with the Globalsat unit, the heart rate feature, although it does seem to work, fairly reliably, it's for some reason prone to these big spikes. I've noticed it in almost all the runs I've done with the unit. You can see here the blue line on the left represents the Globalsat's my heart rate, and it shows me jumping up to 185 within the first mile. I know that's not true. I'm very aware of my heart rate. I've been monitoring it for years, and that's outside what a normal deviation. You can see otherwise, after it sort of sinks in, it's very consistent with the Forerunner unit until the end. And for some reason, at the very end, it jumps up again. It has another spike, represented by the blue line there on the right. So I really can't understand what's going on. Now, I read in the Globalsat forums that the moderators there are the company people that run Globalsat. They've advised other people to wear the heart rate monitor upside down with the lettering facing down and so whatnot. So I've tried that. That's what I did. And it is working. I mean, you can get some readings from it that are accurate, it looks like, but it does have a tendency to these wild swings, and it's unclear why. So anyway, I wouldn't really rely on the heart rate data. I'd look at the heart rate monitor as just a nice to have kind of thing. The Globalsat heart rate feature, unlike the Forerunner, is not what have I read exactly? It's not, it doesn't sync with a specific GPS unit. So if you're running with a bunch of people that have the Globalsat GPSs on, you can get your buddy's heart rate monitor. Whereas with the Forerunner models, you pair them. So you could be running in a group of 100 people wearing heart rate monitors or Garmin heart rate monitors, and you won't get their readings because your heart rate monitor would be paired with your wristwatch. But again, it's interesting data to have, but it's not critical. Okay, so where does that leave us? Basically, bottom line, I've been very happy with the Globalsat GH625M. I think it is a very solid product. The company seems to be very interested in communicating with customers, which makes me very happy. I don't know exactly what they're doing as far as rolling out new models or new features. I do know that they do seem to be releasing firmware for the 625M far outside of what a normal product cycle would require them to. So they they are listening to their users, and they are providing them with firmware updates with features and things, and I'm very impressed with that. I think that Globalsat has a very unique opportunity to really challenge Garmin in this market space. Garmin, I believe, is having some big problems with its business model as a whole, and the sports division seems to be very neglected. It seems to be skewing more towards a more casual runner and not so much the more serious athlete who wants more features. That said, some of the more features that Globalsat has implemented do seem to be outside of the range of what I would want to see in a sports watch. The non-sport features like the longitude and latitude and tracking features and things like that, they're nice to have, and actually the Forerunner does have some of those type of features as well. However, the prominence of them in the Globalsat unit, the prominence in the upper part of the hierarchy of the user interface makes them almost competitive with the sports functions. So it's just something for Globalsat to think about as they roll out their new lines, and maybe they have with the some of their newer models, or I think they have at least one newer model out there. But anyway, I'm very happy with them. I wish Globalsat the best of luck. I would like to see them get more involved with the North American market. I think that they, if they can roll out products like this at a more competitive price point, more competitive with Garmin, they have a very, very strong opportunity to knock Garmin out, because there's a lot of more serious runners who've been unhappy with Garmin's products over the past couple years and the direction that they're going with their sports products. So anyway, that's my review. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks.